All right, y'all, I am not in paradise right now. I am on Carnival Liberty. We are leaving paradise, which was Nassau, Bahamas. And as you can see, we have this beautiful ship, and the sun is going down. It is 5:28 ship time. And today I want to share with you why my budget is $2,000 a month, how I am getting from poverty to paradise on a budget, and how you can get from poverty to paradise, even on the salary that you're making.
Hey y'all, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I'm Linnell. I'm a retired solo traveler in search of paradise on a budget. I grew up in poverty and decided not to stay there. If you think you don't have enough money to live in paradise, this channel is for you. Subscribe for a better way of life and a pathway from poverty to paradise.
Hey y'all, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I'm Linnell, and I am living full time on cruise ships. And right now I have a cruises booked up through, I started full time July 4th, 2024, and have cruises booked up through November of 2025. And we will see going forward if that will continue or if I will move on to something else. And speaking of moving on to something else, that's kind of what this video is about today. Not really moving on to something else, but what the title of my channel, my channel name, what I'm all about. So, as you know, it's called Poverty to Paradise. And I want to speak to those people who are looking to move from poverty to paradise. So, for those of you who are not, let's say, financially strapped, I would say this probably isn't the video for you. Feel free to continue to watch if you are interested. But I'm talking to the people who are in the race, but sometimes they say some people started at first base, second base, third base. This is for those of us who we weren't even invited to the game. We was out somewhere working 2, 3 jobs, trying to care for our family. No one told us about finances. No one told us about plans for retirement. No one told us about stock market and how to be financially responsible. That's who I'm talking to. So if you my people, this video is for you. So I want to talk about why I have a budget of $2,000 per month for living on the cruise ships. If you haven't seen my previous expense budgets, my July and August budgets, I'll link those in the description below. And also my very first video where I talked about having a $2,000 a month budget. Y'all, I apologize for the background noise. Do y'all know how hard it is to find a quiet place to video outside of your cabin when you're on a party ship? But I did want to have the cruise ship as a background, and this is that I know of the quietest spot that I could find. But anyway, I have a few notes here. So my short story, to let you know, I was obviously, as you know, I've said in many of the videos before in my intro, I was raised in poverty. Single mom, 7 kids, long story, but that's neither here nor there. Started going to school, had life changes, got married, had kids, did not go to college, got my college degree. When did I go to school? I graduated 2013, let's say that. I went to college for a lot of different years, took a lot of different breaks, as you say. Now some people say they took summer breaks or they took a year off. I took about 20 years off. But anyway, I graduated, got my accounting degree in 2013. And I didn't know anything about finances, putting money away for retirement, saving money, looking at the future. I always thought I would be just like the rest of the people in my family. Nobody had college degrees. Nobody retired. Everyone worked until they couldn't anymore, and then they lived with family, or they worked until they died. And that was my life, and that is what I thought my life was going to be. So for me to be retired at 53, living on cruise ships, finding paradise on a budget is a miracle in itself. But I want to encourage you to know that it's possible for you to have the life of your dreams. I'm not saying that if you follow in a certain path that you're going to end up being rich. That's not what I'm saying. But I do want you to know that I have learned that there are options out there that no one ever told me about. And so I would like to share some of those options with you, so you at least have an idea, and maybe you will create your own paradise. Maybe you'll create a business, or maybe you have a job, a career, or something where your finances will be a nice cushion for you when it comes for retirement. But for those of us who don't find that, there are other options out there. So let me start by saying the reason why I ended up in this situation was not because of anything that I had a formal plan for. Once I became an accountant and I started looking, which that was 2013, so 11 years ago. Once I became an accountant 11 years ago, and I started learning about finances, I started learning about 401ks and investments and stock markets and things like that. Everything didn't change for me immediately, but at least I had a foundation of where I need to, I had a foundation of where I could go to. So the reason why I'm in this situation now is because of turning lemons into lemonade. So back in November of this year, I had decided, back in November of last year, I had decided I'm going to retire and leave my job by April of 2024, no matter what. And I was going to find a way. The reason why I got that in my head was because of some pioneers who I had followed on YouTube. Just like you're watching YouTube videos, I was watching some YouTube videos, and I probably followed and watched, if not hundreds, maybe thousands of different YouTube channels. And I want to share with you some of them that I found that were very instrumental and encouraging for me.
All right, y'all, as you can see, I am back in my cabin and I have the laptop pulled up, and I want to go over what I want to go over the numbers with you and let you see why and how I'm doing this calculation. So first things first, I am an accountant, but I'm not your accountant, so I have to say that. I am just sharing my information, my thought process, how I went about my numbers, and this is not legal advice. I'm not going to actually use my actual numbers. I'm usually very transparent, but I have been advised not to use my actual numbers, but this is pretty close. It's pretty close. But you'll understand that as I go through the calculation. All right, so I will start with the two most impactful as far as this journey. I hesitate to say that because I have so many people that I have watched and gathered information from that I could give credit to, but this ain't that long of a video. So the two that stick out to the most to me that I want to share with you, at least today, maybe I'll get a chance to share some others in the future. But the two biggest that made the impact regarding this conversation is Exodus Summit, which I mentioned that in a previous video, and I will link their information. But just briefly, it is Stephanie Perry and Rashida Dow. They collaborated. They have a program to help Black women either leave their jobs or take a sabbatical, learn how to house sit, different ways to either take vacations, explore their own finances, leave the country and live outside the United States as expats and things like that. And then the other big impact regarding this conversation is a couple, Rob and Allie. I'm smiling because I just get joy every time I think about their channel and the life that they lead, and how they're creating their own paradise. I can relate so much to their story and their journey that I feel like they're pioneers in what I'm trying to do with my life. I can definitely relate to them, and again, they are on YouTube and you can check them out if you so desire. So with that said, one of the things I learned from Exodus Summit, can't recall if it was Rashida or Stephanie, probably both of them, but The Earth Awaits is, if you haven't heard of it, just briefly, this is a website that I use as a starting point. So let me just walk you through it and you'll know exactly what I mean. It's better for me to show you than for me to try to explain it. So what you can do with this website is you just go to theearthawaits.com. You can put in the family size, which for me it would be 1, and then a monthly budget. So I played around with different numbers, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,500, whatever number. And so you put a number in there as a budget, and you can put different filters on it. So you see here is all of the continents are highlighted in green. You can uncheck any of the continents. Say you're like, for sure I don't want to live in Oceania, or for sure I don't want to live in Asia, or whatever the case may be. You can uncheck those continents to your liking, and you'll see that we'll have some more filters later. But when you just pop up $2,000 for a single person's budget, we come back with 275 results. Now you can look at that in the grid, or you can look at it as a map. And you'll notice the biggest thing that stands out to me is there are no places that are under $2,000 a month in the United States. Just visually looking at this, we'll have to dig into the details, but just visually looking at this, I can tell that you can live in almost every place in the world except for the United States and Australia under $2,000. And if we zoom in more, the UK and I believe Russia are also excluded. So those are the most expensive places. Everywhere else has at least a few places. And when I say a few places, so these are specific cities, but of course there's surrounding areas that you can look into. And I'm sure there's a few places in the United States that you can look into that's going to be less than maybe even $2,000 a month. There might be some small city in the middle of Alabama or Mississippi where the cost of living is really low. But looking at in general, most places in the United States are going to be more than $2,000 a month for a single person. So using this as a starting point to do some research, I scrolled through this website. Again, looking at initially, there's 275 results found. So then I went to some of the filters and I said, you know, I want a modest lifestyle, but I don't want any crime rate or any pollution. Let me just type in modest for those also and see what pops up. So you can see here my search, my filter has changed for those. I'm clicking the search button, and instead of the 275 results, now I've narrowed it down to 130 results. I can keep, changing the filters, playing with the amounts that are there, and until I find something that I'm comfortable with. But just for illustration purposes, you can see some of the places here. Again, these are starting points of information. You'll have to do more research. I'll have to do more research before I actually pick a place, but this is a starting point. You can see Coimbra, Portugal, Alicante, Spain, some places in Italy. And now when I go back to the map to show, okay, now I have those additional filters in there with a modest amount of crime and a modest amount of pollution. You can see how my search results, the red dots that you see, are less than what I saw earlier. So it was 275, now it's 130 results that are found. And I know for me personally, I think that my dream location would be on the beach in a big city. And when I say a big city, I don't mean necessarily New York or Mexico City. When I say big city, I'm thinking Orlando size. So not some small little country town. Not a village or anything like that, but a small to medium-sized city, and I would love to live on the beach. So here are some choices that kind of stick out to me. So Cuenca, Ecuador, Puerto Vallarta, which I did visit on one of my cruise destinations. There's a city here in Barbados called Bridgetown. Las Palmas, Spain. So I know that there is a big bunch of there's a big amount of expats over there. Over on the Asia side, I hear a lot of people talk about Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, And I know that there are some U.S. expats living over in Phuket, so that is one of the places that I'm looking into. One of the places that is high on my list that I definitely want to visit is Cuenca, which is in Ecuador, and another city close to it is Manta. I think Manta's on the beach, but Cuenca's pretty close. And so I'm definitely interested in visiting those areas. When I click on them, I can see the cost of living for a single person looks like it's really low, $1,000 or less. What does it say? $8.99. And then I can scroll down in this website and I can read about it before I, go and do some more deep dive research in other websites and YouTube and actually going to visit the places. But this website lets me click on, I can see some pictures, I can look at some of the history, and I can scroll down and see the filters. What is it saying about the quality of life, the quality of healthcare, the crime level, the pollution level, and the walk score? Because probably where I move to, I'm probably not going to have a vehicle. And then once I look at this, I made some notes. As I looked through this, I made some notes of different places that, were potential high on my list. And of course, I might hear about some more places as I'm, watching videos, or as I'm doing some traveling, when I'm doing some cruising. I might hear some other places, but this is a good starting point for me. And then in addition to that, you can also use this tool to go and look up your city. If you click on the browse tool, you can look up your city, or if you live in a smaller city or a suburb, you can look up the general area like Chicago, New York, some of the bigger cities. Orlando will be in there. So for kicks and giggles, I pulled up Atlanta. And then if I scroll down, just like I did when I saw Cuenca, Ecuador, I can see the cost of living for Atlanta, which we already know is more than $2,000 a month. And I can see the quality of life, the quality of healthcare, crime level, pollution level, and I can compare that. The places that I'm going to, do I want to, is it comparable to Atlanta, which is what the type of environment that I'm used to? Is it better? Is it worse? So I definitely want to check these places out for myself. All right, so once I started seeing that, hey, I could probably live in these 5 places that I like. It says that I can live there for $900 a month, $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month, $1,500 a month. Just as a cushion, I'm going to give myself a budget of $2,000 a month. Okay, so again, these are not exact numbers. These are not my exact numbers, but you'll see how I came to my $2,000 a month budget for my cruise ship travels. In my cruise ship travels is a transition for me from the United States to wherever I'm going to land in retirement. It might be back in the United States, it might be in another country, it might be cruising for longer than I expect. I'm not sure yet, but I want to have those options that I spoke about earlier. So now, let me see. All right, so I've talked about the 3 things that kind of helped me on this journey: the Earth Awaits, Exodus Summit, and Grounded Life. And now I just talked about places that I can live affordably and how to find those places, how to start the search for them. And using the Earth Awaits is one tool. There are actually many tools, but I just want to introduce you to some of the tools that I've been using. The next few things that I'm going to talk about is how much money do I need, how much money do I have, and I need to do the math, which is what you need to do if you are planning if you're planning any kind of journey like this, whether it's to leave the U.S., whether it's to stay in the U.S., whether it's to retire in the place that you're living at right now, whether it's to live on cruise ships, whatever it is, you need to do the math. So how much money do I need? So this is a hypothetical situation. These, again, are not my numbers. Hypothetical situation. If you do a little research, if you look at 10 different, if you look at 10 different websites, 10 different researchers, you're going to find 10 different numbers. But overall, it seems to me that the average or median salary, people make more above, people make less under, that middle number is $50,000 a year. Your mileage may vary. It will. I'm pretty sure no one who's watching this video is making exactly $50,000. You're probably making more or less. But let's say I am making, or I was, let's say I was making $50,000 a year. Hypothetical situation. I am going to save 10% of my income. Why 10%? 10% is a starting point, and this is for illustration purposes only, okay? So I'm going to save 10% of my income, which is $5,000 a year. Someone's going to say, psh, I can't save $5,000 a year. I only make whatever, X amount of money. If I'm making $50,000 a year, and let's put it in a smaller number. If I'm making $10 an hour and have all these bills and all these taxes and health care and blah, 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 blah. If I'm making $10 an hour, I need to have the mentality that I can keep at least one of those dollars for me, for future me. If I'm making $20 an hour, I should be able to keep 2 of those dollars for future me. The other 18, we can spend on whatever y'all want me to spend it on, okay? We can spend it on rent, utilities, taxes, whatever. I'll just pretend I'm making $18 an hour when I make $20 an hour. I need to keep 2 of those dollars for me. So you can also have that mentality that I deserve 10% of my own money, of my hard-earned sweat and tears to keep for future me, because ain't nobody else gonna look out for future me but me. So 10%, that's the starting point. Hopefully, and I'll let you know, I did save more than 10% during the 11 years that I was an accountant. Didn't start out that way, had to gradually get that way, had to gradually have a change in mindset, had to have other people, other influencers out there to let me know that it was okay to do that. All right, so I'm making $50,000, I'm saving $5,000 a year. Hopefully I have an employer who matches. The average match out there is about 5%. From the research that I've done, there's probably some that are more, some that are less. But let's say the employer is going to put in $2,500. So for the year, $7,500 a year. $7,500 a year is $625 a month. So you're doing, I need to do it on the calculator and I can edit it out. 5,000 divided by 12, you're doing $417, and your employer is doing $208. Okay. So $7,500 a year, $625 a month at 10% interest. 10% interest, this is one of the things that I did not learn growing up. I did not even hear about until I went to college for accounting. One of my electives was personal finance, and that's where I learned about compound interest, 401ks, retirement money, HSAs, all that good stuff. So if you were to invest, I'm gonna put this on me. If I was investing $625 at 10% interest in the stock market, why 10%? Because the stock market averages 10% return. Not gonna get into all the details of that. If anyone wants me to deep dive into that more, I will. Some of you have already heard about that. You don't care. You already know this part. You're just trying to figure out why I'm doing $2,000 a month. But if you want to know more about the 10%, about the average of the stock market and all that, there's other resources out there that will explain it. If you want me to make another video on it, let me know in the comments. And if I get enough interest in it, I will do that. Someone's going to say 10% interest. You can't get 10% interest in the stock market. Yes, you can. The stock market goes up, it goes down. Sometimes it'll be 15 or 20%. Sometimes it'll be 2 or 3%. Sometimes it'll be 7 or 8%. Sometimes it'll be 12%. There's no predicting what the stock market will do. The only prediction that we can make is our best guess estimate. And on average, over the last however long the stock market has been existing, it's been averaging around 10%. And to put in perspective, this is my 401k as of the end of August, maybe the first week of September. When I pulled it up, my stock market was my 401k, which is where most, not all, but most of my retirement funds are, is in my 401k. My rate of return is 14% year to date. All right, so next is I'm going to give you 2 tools that I used in my calculations. So again, I'm going to save $625 a month at 10% interest. And I'm going to use this calculator here. This is a compound interest calculator. It does all the work for us. We don't have to do anything but put in some assumptions. And what I'm doing with this calculation is I'm saying that I'm putting in $625 a month for a certain time period, but I'm not putting in any increases. So I know right now I'm making, in my hypothetical calculation, I know that I'm making $50,000 a year. More than likely, unless something's seriously wrong, I'm going to be getting a raise each year. This is not going to calculate that raise. So hopefully whatever numbers you're putting in here it makes you feel even more comfortable knowing that you're going to be increasing more than that $625 a month. You're going to be, if you increase it maybe 1% each year or a dollar amount each year. Every time you get a raise, you increase it, I don't know, 20 bucks or 1% or 2%, whatever it is. But this right here is just going to be a base amount. So I'm going to put an example in here of how to let this do the calculation for me. So I'm going to say that I'm starting out. I know absolutely nothing. I ain't been saving nothing. I ain't got no money nowhere. My initial investment is $0. My monthly contribution, I already said, I'm putting in $625 a month, and I'm going to do that for 10 years. My estimated interest rate is 10%. I'm not going to do interest rate variance range right now. And then we're going to calculate, and the computer calculates it for me. In 10 years, I'm going to have $120,000. Not too shabby. All right, let's say I'm 40 and I want to retire when I'm 55, because I didn't do like Linnell and wait till halfway through her accounting career to start saving. I'm going to start saving now when I'm 40, and when I'm 55, I am going to have, if I put in $625 a month at 10% interest, I'm going to have $238,000. So when I am 55, that's how much I have. Let me see. I don't really feel comfortable with 238. I'm going to increase that to, I'm going to work 5 more years. I'm going to work 20 years instead of 15. Let's see what that comes to. All right, so I'm 40 now. I'm going to work till I'm 60. I'm going to put in $625 a month. I'm going to be earning 10% interest. I know I'm going to be putting in more than $625, but I'll have at least $430,000 in 20 years. Is that enough money? Probably not. Some people say we need $1 million. Some people say we need $2 million to retire. It's probably not enough money, right? All right, let's back up. I'm going to go back to the 15 years. And remember, I said at 15 years, say I'm 40 and I'm going to retire when I'm 55. 15 years at $625 is going to net me $238. Even though I wasn't doing like I was supposed to, I have been putting a little bit of money aside here and there. And lo and behold, I go and look, and oh, my employee's been putting in some too. Okay, I looked at the numbers, and I actually have $20,000 set aside in my 401k. I didn't even know it was there, but let's pretend I got $20,000, and I'm still gonna do my $625 a month. I'm gonna do that for 15 years, and I'm gonna average 10% interest rate. At the end of that 15 years, I'm going to have $320,000. Is $320,000 enough? Probably not. Again, everyone keeps saying I need $1 million to $2 million to retire. Okay, here is the second calculator. This one is the retirement withdrawal calculator. This tool is going to show me how, if I tell this when I want to retire, how much interest I expect to earn, what I think inflation is going to be, and how much money I have, it's going to tell me how much money I can spend. Let me show you. I'm going to tell the retirement withdrawal calculator that I'm going to retire in 15 years. I'm going to retire in 15 years and I'll be 55. 7 years after that, I'll be getting Social Security. So I'm going to say I need this money for 7 years. So number of years in retirement is 7 years. I know that I'm going to get an average of 10%. Some years it'll be more, some years it'll be less. I think inflation, even though the last couple years has been really high, and unfortunately those prices are not going back down, but hopefully inflation doesn't jump that high again, and in the future it does stay around what it has averaged over the last 20 years, which was about 2.5 to 3% inflation. I have $320,000 saved up. And it says, how much money do you want to have left? I could put 0 in there, but I'm not going to put 0 because I don't want to rely totally on Social Security. All right, y'all, I need to add in a little blurb here. I anticipate getting Social Security at 62. I know a lot of people are not relying on Social Security, but I believe Social Security will still be here in one form or another. Anyway, my anticipated benefits at the age of 62 is $2,046. That is based on today's dollars. So if I am calculating $2,000 in expenses right now, if I was getting Social Security, it would cover my $2,000 a month expenses, and the Social Security will increase at the rate of inflation. So I am keeping that in my calculation to replace the $2,000 a month of expenses. Again, it will be higher at the time that I retire, but it will be equivalent to $2,000 a month in today's dollars. I want to be able to have some money left, a little cushion at least. So I'm going to say, do you want to have any money left? Yes, I want to have 100 grand left over. When I'm 62, I'm going to still have 100 grand. That means I can spend how much? All right, and then this calculator is going to spit out a withdrawal schedule for me. So based on that, when I retire in 2039, so 15 years from now, I'm going to have 320,000. I can withdraw 46,000. And if you look up where it says withdraw and the number in red, that is equivalent to $30,000 in today's dollars. So in 2039, I'll be able to spend $46,000. The amount that's left over, I'm going to earn my 10%. So the 320 minus the $46,000, that means I'll have $273,000 left. I'm going to earn 10% of that, which is $27,365, and we're going to add that to what I had left over, and I'm still going to have $301,000 at the end of the first year. And you can look down those 7 years and see exactly how much money I'll be able to take out, still having my $100,000, again assuming that I get 10% compounded annually. So in conclusion, that means if I'm making $50,000 right now and I start saving 10% of my income and my employer matches 5%, or if my employer doesn't match and I learn how to be frugal and I save 15% of my income, when I say save, invest, put it in the 401k, put it in mutual funds, put in some kind of investment account in the stock market. And when I say the stock market, a broad, diverse stock market, not individual stocks. And I'm going to save that $625 every month, probably increasing it during those 10 years as I'm getting raises. At the end of those 15 years, not 10. At the end of those 15 years, I'm going to have $320,000. My $320,000, that is my investment account. I'm going to have other money elsewhere. I'm going to have emergency savings. I'm going to have a HSA for my health care. I'm going to have some backup funds for different things, which we can talk about later in other videos. But in my retirement account that I'm going to live off of, I can take out $30,000 a year in today's dollars. Where can I live for $30,000 a year right now? So that is my thought process. For $30,000 a year, that's about $2,500 a month. I'm going to put away $500 for other stuff, which y'all have saw in my expenses. So where can I live? And I still have, if I'm using $500, if I'm using that $500 for my miscellaneous, that leaves me with $2,000 left. Where can I live on $2,000 a month and not have to keep this crappy job that I'm in? So that was my thought process. And where can I find that? In the Earth Awaits. So I go back to those places and I see. I'm going to check out some of these places. I'm going to travel to some of these places and see are these places that I can actually live? I know that there are other expats from the United States who live there because I've done some research. If there are no expats there, then that probably, or if I didn't find any information about expats living there, then those places are probably not on my list. All the places that I've researched, they have a significant amount of expats who live there. And I've done the comparison on the filters as far as crime, healthcare, overall quality of life, things like that. So hopefully this is a simple enough. I know it's complicated and it's math, and everyone doesn't love math the way I do, but hopefully this is a simple enough explanation to get you started at looking at your numbers and pulling out these calculators or any kind of calculators that are similar to it, that will help you decide what your future paradise is going to be.
Hopefully this will help you to get from poverty to paradise. All right, y'all, so that is why I have chosen to live the life that I'm living now. And once these cruises are dried up, because I don't think that they're going to let me cruise for free forever, if they do, we'll see what happens, and I will continue to make that kind of content. But my content really is about poverty to paradise, moving from poverty into paradise. My paradise right now happens to be, I happen to be getting to paradise right now via cruise ships. So that's what the channel is that's what the videos are mostly about, me living on the cruise ships. But the channel is about getting you and me from poverty to paradise by any means necessary. I hope this information was helpful to you. As usual, if you have any comments or questions, leave them below and I will answer them as soon as I am back on land. See y'all later.